I was hired to monitor an abandoned highway at night. I shouldn't have answered the radio. 2 months ago, I got hired by the Department of Transportation for a job so obscure, no one I knew had even heard of it. Highway Sentinel, Sector 13. No job description. Just a list of equipment I'd receive, and a contract with a generous salary, $15,000 a month for a single night shift per week. They flew me out to some remote desert town with no name. Just a motel, a gas station that didn't work, and a blinking cell tower on a nearby hill. The highway I was assigned to was 10 miles long and had been closed to the public since the 90s. No one would say why. My job? Sit in a small trailer at mile 5 and monitor a stretch of asphalt with a set of 6 cameras, motion sensors, a two-way radio, and a printed rule book with emergency procedures. Here are the rules they gave me. I didn't understand them at the time. I do now. Rules for Sentinel staff, Sector 13. 1. Begin your shift at exactly 11:44 p.m. Not before. Not after. Failure to comply will result in disorientation and memory loss. 2. At 12:12 a.m., the radio will emit static. Do not respond. If you hear your name, plug your ears and recite the phrase, "I am not your vessel." 3. Between 12:30 and 1:30 a.m., motion sensors may detect activity between mile 6 and mile 9. This is to be expected. Do not investigate. Do not rewind the footage. 4. If camera 3, facing mile 7, goes dark, place the provided blindfold over your eyes for 3 minutes. You may hear scratching. Do not remove the blindfold until the countdown alarm chimes. 5. If the emergency lights flash blue 3 times in a row, evacuate the trailer immediately and lie face down on the center line of the highway for 6 minutes and 6 seconds. Do not move, speak, or think of home. 6. At 3:33 a.m., you may be contacted by Central Dispatch via radio. You'll know it's really them if they begin the call by saying, "The stars are steady tonight." If they say anything else, power down the radio and pour salt water into the speaker grill. 7. Under no circumstances should you attempt to drive past mile 10. Doing so will result in loss of time, identity, and soul. If you reach the orange sign that reads "Stay," you've already gone too far. I thought it was an elaborate joke. I laughed when I read it. But I followed the rules anyway. Who wouldn't, when you're being paid like that? The first night was boring. Static at 12:12, just like they said. I heard someone whisper my name through the white noise. I laughed it off, said the line like a kid playing make-believe. "I am not your vessel." Nothing happened. Motion sensors pinged a few times, but the cameras showed nothing. One briefly glitched and returned to normal. No blue lights. No calls. No monsters. Easy paycheck. Second night, camera 3 cut out at 1:11 a.m. I remembered the rule, laughed again, but I was starting to feel a little nervous. I blindfolded myself and sat perfectly still. The scratching. It was under the floorboards. Not outside. I told myself it was just desert wildlife. Third night. The radio crackled at 12:12. I didn't even wait for the whisper. I said the phrase. Then I heard something new. "You will say yes eventually." I unplugged the radio. I was sweating. The motion sensors were lighting up like crazy. One after the other, ping 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 ping. But the camera still showed nothing. Just empty road and flickering lights. Fourth night, everything went to hell. At 12:58 a.m., the blue lights flashed. 3 times. I didn't hesitate. I ran from the trailer and lay down on the center line as instructed. Face down. Silent. Still. I heard footsteps. Bare feet. Dozens of them. The sound of something dragging. Breathing that was too wet, too close. Someone crouched near my head and whispered something that still echoes in my ears. "You've been seen." I should have run. I should have quit. But I didn't. By the 5th night, I was numb. I started reciting the rules like a prayer. Every hour on the hour. A ritual to keep myself sane. But that night, something changed. At 3:33 a.m., the radio buzzed. "This is Central Dispatch. The stars are steady tonight." I exhaled. Relief. "Good," I said. "Anything to report?" There was a pause. Then a voice spoke. "Do not trust the rules. They were written by the ones on the other side." "What do you mean?" "They're not containment instructions. They're a summoning sequence. Every rule followed, every protocol obeyed, brings them closer." "What?" "Static." Then the voice returned. There's only one way to stop it. Break Rule 7. Drive past mile 10. Burn the book. Don't look back. I stared at the rule book. My hand was trembling. This could be a trick. But if they were telling the truth, every time I followed the rules, I wasn't protecting people. I was inviting something through. So I did it. I got in the truck and drove. Past mile 10. Past the orange stay sign. My eyes burned. The road stretched on, endlessly. Time warped. The moon flickered like a dying bulb. Eventually, the highway ended. A cliff. Beyond it, a massive thing was crawling up from the blackness. All bone and smoke. Too many limbs. 100 eyes, all closed. Sleeping. The rules weren't protecting us from it. They were waking it up. I lit the book on fire and threw it into the abyss. The fire caught something. The cliff trembled. The eyes opened. It saw me. Then I woke up. In my bed. No sign of the trailer. No highway. No cameras. Just my room. Normal. But when I stepped outside, there was no sun. No stars. Just sky, made of eyes. No one else sees it. The world thinks it's normal. But I see them watching. I see the claw marks on my door each morning. The rules weren't the problem. Breaking them was. And now? I think it's fully awake. At first, I told myself it was a dream. That the thing I saw climbing from the edge of that endless cliff, the sky made of blinking, bloodshot eyes, the claw marks that appeared overnight, it all had to be some kind of mental breakdown. But then the rules came back. I didn't find them. They found me. Folded neatly on my kitchen table the next morning, with a fresh note scribbled on top in red ink. You've left your post. Return immediately. Underneath was a new list. Different from the first one. Shorter. Deadlier. Emergency override, Sector 13. For lapsed sentinels only. 1. You are now considered a breach point. Do not speak to reflections. If one speaks first, pretend not to hear it. If it smiles, you have 12 hours to make peace with your God. 2. Sleep no more than 2 hours per night. Use stimulants. If you dream, it can see through you. If it sees too much, you'll wake up in the wrong body. 3. Avoid shadows cast by trees after dusk. They are not your own. 4. If a knock comes at your door between 2:16 and 2:44 a.m., do not open it. Even if it's your own voice. Especially if it's your own voice. 5. Do not attempt to resign. You are not employed. You are entrusted. My hands were shaking. I checked all the locks. I covered the mirrors. I drank coffee until I felt like vomiting. I didn't sleep for 3 days straight. On the 4th night, I slept. I fell asleep sitting upright, clutching the page like a lifeline. And I dreamed. I was standing on the highway again. Only this time, it was split open like a wound. The blacktop peeled back like skin. And from beneath it, something enormous was crawling upward, its body made of the bones of those who had followed the rules too long. Their skulls were still screaming. The thing looked at me with a million mouths. And spoke in 1,000 voices, layered on top of each other. You were supposed to watch. You broke the ritual. Now you must replace what you freed. I woke up with blood on my pillow and a terrible pain behind my eyes. And that was when the calls began. Not on my phone. On the radio. Yes, the same radio from the trailer, now somehow inside my apartment. I never brought it here. I never could have. But it was sitting on my kitchen counter, wires trailing like veins, humming with static and a voice I'll never forget. Return to mile 5. Final correction pending. One last chance to seal the wound. I didn't want to go back. But then the birds stopped singing outside. The sky stayed a dark gray, no matter the hour. The people I passed on the street wouldn't meet my eyes. A neighbor smiled at me, and her teeth were upside down. Reality was breaking. So I drove back to the place where it all began. But when I arrived, the trailer was gone. The road itself looked different, older, warped. Mile markers twisted and rusted. There was a new sign, one I hadn't seen before. Witness to the veil, final shift in progress. And beyond that, the sky was pulsing. Like it was breathing. Like something inside it was about to be born. I walked. Each step felt heavier than the last. At mile 5, the road cracked open under my feet. Just like in the dream. But this time I didn't run. I listened. The radio buzzed in my pocket. I hadn't brought it with me. But it was there anyway. I pressed the button. "Do you accept your purpose?" I didn't answer. Because I finally understood. I hadn't been hired to guard anything. I was the offering. We all were. Every person who followed the rules. Every sentinel. Every shift. Every ritual. It wasn't about keeping anything in. It was about feeding it. Feeding the thing beneath the road. Keeping it full. Keeping it asleep. But I had broken the chain. I had disrupted the rhythm. Skipped steps. Ignored instructions. Burned the book. And now it was hungry again. I had two choices: complete the ritual myself and seal it for another cycle, or let it fully wake and devour everything. And God help me, I almost considered sealing it. Because maybe humanity deserves one more cycle. Maybe my mistakes didn't have to end the world. But then I saw them. The other sentinels. Lining the road in rows. Not alive. Not dead. Just there, half melted into the asphalt. Their eyes pleading. Mouths frozen in silent screams. I saw one of them. It was me. An older me. Rotting. Stuck in a time loop I never agreed to. That's when I realized. No one chooses to keep the world turning. They just don't want to be the one who ends it. So I did what no one else had done. I walked away. I didn't finish the ritual. I didn't speak the final lines. I didn't return to my post. I didn't look back. And as I drove away from mile 5, the sky turned black. Then red. Then started bleeding. It's been 3 days since then. Cities are crumbling. Gravity flickers like a bad signal. People disappear mid-sentence. Some come back wrong. One of my friends has no back, just a flat plane of skin. I'm afraid to ask if she knows. Everyone still thinks it's just freak weather, or hallucinations, or stress. They haven't seen the eyes. But I have. They're watching me right now, just beyond the corners of my vision. They remember that I tried to break the cycle. They remember that I burned the book. And every time I close my eyes, I see that road again. The open crack. The hands reaching up. The endless mouth, whispering with voices that sound like mine. So this is it. My last warning. If someone offers you a job that pays too much to be real, if they hand you a rule book with strange instructions, don't follow the rules. Don't break them either. Just run. Because whatever's beneath that road, it's awake now. And it's hungry for the rest of us.